Please note this video was filmed before the UK lockdown. You know the drill, stay safe and stay at home. Last year I tested the brand new Ford Fiesta Trend, the new entry level of Ford's ever popular Super Mini, and at the time it was only available with one engine, the 1.1 litre naturally aspirated petrol, and whilst it wasn't a bad engine, there was a large part of me that was crying out for the award-winning EcoBoost engine. Well, it appears Ford agrees because now this car is available with the EcoBoost engine. Ah, this is more like it. This is the engine the Fiesta Trend should have had to begin with, the EcoBoost. I'm so glad that Ford has made the decision to include this engine in the Trend lineup because, yeah, it really, well, it's just a better engine. Now, yes, I know it makes the car more expensive, and for those who are on a budget, you might not be able to stretch to it, but I urge you to go for it if the budget allows, because it's a nice fizzy little engine. Yes, granted, it's not the most powerful EcoBoost you can have, but yes, I would definitely recommend it over the 1.1 litre naturally aspirated petrol unit. This has 95 horsepower along with 170 newton meters of torque. If you prefer that in pound-feet, that is 125. This engine will hit 62 miles per hour in 13.8 seconds. Yes, I know that does seem rather slow, but in the real world, it doesn't quite seem that pedestrian. Although, let's face it, this car won't be bought for performance anyway. The top speed, well, that is 105 miles per hour, although, let's be fair, there's a very good chance you'll never hit it. What about fuel economy though? This is the most fuel efficient engine you can have for the Fiesta Trend, although there is the choice of the 1.5 litre diesel, but it's not quite as frugal as this engine. On a combined run, Ford states that it can offer up to 64.2 mpg with emissions as low as 94 grams per kilometre of CO2. This may be the entry level Fiesta, but it still has the fantastic chassis which has made the Fiesta a fun and enjoyable car to drive. It's nicely balanced, the steering has got a nice weight to it, even outside of sport mode it feels direct, the feedback is pretty good as well, and overall it's just a pleasing car to drive. But hey, what else would you expect? It is a Fiesta. Even though this car is on more eco type tyres, it's still got a good amount of grip in the corners. Okay, there is a bit more body roll compared to an ST line or an ST, but this is the entry level. This isn't designed to, you know, set any lap records, but even so, that isn't to say you can't have good fun in this car, because, yeah, I've enjoyed my time with the Trend. Not only is the Fiesta rather good fun in the corners, but it's comfortable as well. It's smooth and the ride is compliant. The ride, it feels more grown up and premium than you would expect from a cheap Super Mini. It soaks up the bumps beautifully, the damping is pretty spot on, and you still get decent cornering. The 6-speed manual gearbox has got a nice slick action to it. It's got a nice solidity about it. It just feels right. With this being a Fiesta, it's very easy to drive. I've got no problem in regard to visibilities, and it's a small car, therefore it'll be easy to manoeuvre around town, although you can get the rear parking sensors if you're a bit of a clumsy parker. In regard to refinement for what the car is pretty good. Don't get me wrong, it's not a Rolls Royce in here, but it's not designed to be, so that would be a very stupid thing to say before you lot in the comments section start bashing your keyboard. But what I mean is, for a cheap Super Mini, the refinement is pretty good. If I just shut up, there is a little bit of tyre noise, I won't lie, but apart from that, it's pretty civilised in here. I don't feel as if I need to shout. Yes, the rain is getting a bit noisy on the windscreen, but that's Mother Nature's fault, not the car's fault. Even when you work the engine hard, it's never shouting at you, it's never boomy. And when you've stopped revving it to within an inch of its life and you actually just settle down to a cruise, you'll find that the engine is barely audible, to be honest. Safe to say the Trend offers a satisfying drive, but how practical is it? When it comes to space, the Fiesta Trend is no different from any other Fiesta. This means you get a boot which offers 292 litres, which is by no means class leading, but it is still pretty usable. There is a bit of a step into the boot though, so if you have bigger or heavier items, it may be a little bit of a faff lifting them up, over and into the boot floor. If you want more space, you can of course fold down the 60/40 rear seats to give you 1093 litres. There's a hook either side, so if you wanted to hang something up you can do so. There's no spare wheel, but there is of course a tyre repair kit. Like the boot, the Fiesta isn't class leading when it comes to rear space. As always, the driver's seat has been set for me. I'm 6'2", so I am of course a taller chap. And as you can hopefully see, the space left behind isn't overly fantastic. Okay, one could argue I could probably tilt my seat up a little bit more if I wanted to, but even if I did, I still wouldn't have a great amount of knee room or leg room. I wouldn't say I feel cramped back here, but I wouldn't want to be here for a longer journey. Headroom is also quite limited, so if you are a taller person, you'd probably want to sit in the front, but this is a small car after all. However, having said that, if you want a Super Mini with more rear space, I would urge you to take a look at the Seat Ibiza or the Volkswagen Polo. In regard to practicality, there's a bit of practicality back here, not too much, so you don't get any map pockets. There's no centre armrest, but to be fair, I wouldn't expect one because this is the base model. The door bins are of a decent enough size. I can fit my bottle in there. This is 600 millilitres, so that fits in just fine. There's also a cup holder down here, just out of shot, and a USB port. That's about it really, so it's not really much in the way of luxuries in the back, but come on. This is a base model, so I shouldn't really be that judgmental or picky. Thankfully, there's more space to be had in the front, and one thing I found surprising, a good surprise, is that the steering wheel not only adjusts for rake, but it adjusts for reach as well, which isn't always the case for an entry-level car. Speaking of entry-level, I think the inside of this car is deceiving in a good way. If I were to step into this car and I wasn't aware this was the base model, I wouldn't think twice because it's finished nicely. I've got a leather steering wheel, I've got a leather gear knob, leather handbrake, the seats are finished nicely, there's soft touches to the dashboard, you've also got gloss black plastics and a bit of silver detailing. Overall, the inside is a pleasing place to be, and this doesn't feel like a bargain basement car, so well done Ford. Now, speaking of the specification, what do you get as standard? Before I delve into the specification, it might actually be a good idea if I give you the price, which I actually forgot to do in this segment. I know, what an amateur. Anyway, the Trend starts from £16,140, but that will give you a 3-door model with the naturally aspirated 1.1 litre petrol engine. So you get LED headlights for the low beam, the high beam are halogen headlights. You also get LED daytime running lights and LED signature for the rear lights. You get an 8-inch touchscreen with DAB radio, Bluetooth and smartphone connectivity. You get the NCAP pack, which gives you autonomous emergency braking, lane keep assist, speed limiter, automatic headlights, and it gives you hill start assist. You also get a choice of driving modes, so I've got normal, eco or sport. Rear electric windows, which may seem like a given, but other rivals don't have electric windows for the base model, so that is pretty impressive. Well done Ford. Air conditioning, but that's a bit of a given. 16-inch alloys and privacy glass. So this may be the entry level, but the specification, I'm sure you'll agree, is generous. Now, this car does have a few options, and the car I'm sat in right now is actually £18,545, which does seem a little bit ludicrous for a car that's meant to be the entry level. Now, this does have the EcoBoost engine, which pushes the price up a little bit. It also has the 5-door body shape, and it's got a few options. So I've got navigation, that's £300. I've got the chrome blue paintwork, that is £500. I've got the City Pack, which gives me power folding door mirrors and rear parking sensors. That is £400, I believe. Hang on, I'm going to have to cheat and look at the spec sheet. Yeah, £400. And I've also got the Comfort Pack, which gives me heated front seats and a heated steering wheel. That is £350. So yeah, this doesn't look to be quite as good value as what it would be if you didn't spec those, but obviously those are your choice. And let's face it, this kind of car is more likely to be bought on finance. So when you add the options on per month, it's not going to add a massive difference. Now let's speak about the practicality. Practicality in here is good. The door bins are of a good size. I can fit in a 1.5 litre bottle with no real issues, and there's space left over if I want to pop some snacks in here or chocolate bar, that kind of thing. You've got a slot in the middle where you can pop your smartphone or some smaller items. 3 cup holders in the middle, so you've got 2 larger ones and 1 smaller one for an energy drink. A little slot here where perhaps you can pop some loose change, and of course a glove box which offers a decent amount of space. You've also got a 12-volt socket and a USB port as well for connectivity purposes or charging purposes. So the front is a good place to be. To be honest, there's not much I don't like about this car. The only things I don't really like, well, I say I don't like, things that could be improved on, go for the rest of the Fiesta range, and that's rear space and boot space. As much as the Fiesta is a cracking car to drive, it's not the most practical. Now, that's not to say that it isn't practical at all, because that would be silly and untrue. But what I mean is, you know, you look at cars like the Seat Ibiza or the Volkswagen Polo, they've got a noticeably larger boot, and they've also got more space in the rear as well. And I would argue, this is subjective, I would argue the Ibiza is a nicer looking car, but again, that's subjective. The Fiesta isn't ugly, but I think compared to cars like the new Corsa or the new 208, doesn't look quite as good if you ask me. I personally think the new Peugeot 208 is the best looking super mini money can buy right now. Let's finish things off with safety. The Trend comes with standard features including 6 airbags, autonomous emergency braking, automatic headlights, lane keep assist, hill start assist and speed limiter. This means it was able to earn 5 stars from Euro NCAP, which would be reassuring for those who want to have this as a family car. I think Ford made the right decision to offer the Trend with the EcoBoost engine, as it's helped to give the car the character that the Fiesta has become well known for. It feels revitalised compared to the naturally aspirated 1.1 litre petrol version I drove last year, but I fully appreciate that for some the EcoBoost engine may be too much of a stretch for those on a budget. If you can though, I would urge you to go for that engine, as you'll get a value for money Super Mini that's as enjoyable to drive as it is cheap to run. However, no matter which version of the Trend you go for, you'll get a small car that has got a fair amount to offer. Thank you so much for watching this video. I do hope you have enjoyed it. If so, be sure to like, subscribe and to click the bell so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession.